What's going on, y'all? I am back with day two of my NFL draft targets for my Miami Dolphins going into the draft, which is less than a month away at this point. So, yeah, you should be getting to know prospects. And these are the guys I would be coveting on day two of the NFL draft, part one. Because if you did not know, the Dolphins have 5 picks on day two. So I had to split it up into multiple parts. Today, we're going to be talking about the top 75 picks, 43 and 75. Tomorrow, I got y'all with 87, 90, and 94. Let's get straight into it. And I guess we should start by, in case you missed part one, let's talk about some players that probably will not be available when the Dolphins pick at 43. So I'm not mocking, I don't know, Makai Lemon at 43. Some people will not be there. And maybe I'm wrong on a couple. Maybe I'm right on all 38 of the guys I think that won't be here. Let's go ahead and talk about it. Fernando Mendoza is going number one. He will not be available. Ty Simpson, I do not think will be available at 43, nor would I draft him there because, I mean, Malik Willis is getting paid and we have so many holes on the roster. I don't think you take a shot on Ty Simpson, even if he's there at 43, which, like I said, I don't think he will be. Jeremiah Love will not be available at the 43rd pick. Jadarian Price, you could argue, might also not be available, but I decided to leave him in the pile. I'm not going to be drafting a running back. Wide receiver, Parnell Tate, likely a top 10 pick. His floor literally might be number 11 to the Dolphins. Makai Lemon, first round pick. Jordan Tyson could fall out of the first round because of injuries. I think too many teams at the start of the second round need wide receiver to where they pass on him at that point. Omar Cooper to me is first round pick. Concepcion probably doesn't get out of the top 40, and nor does Denzel Boston. So those guys I think will not be available. Kenyon Sadiq's a top 20 pick. France Malinois, Spencer Fano, and Freeling are probably all top 15 picks. Their floor feels like 17 to the Lions. Hayden Proctor could go 17 to the Lions, 24 to the Browns, 27 to the 49ers, 28 to the Texans, 30 to the Dolphins. He won't be there by 43. And I really don't think Blake Miller will be either. There's a lot of talk about Blake Miller potentially being a first round pick. You can talk about the Eagles, the Patriots, you could talk about the Cardinals at the start of the second round, depending on what they do at three. I don't think he's there, and nor do I think Caleb Lomu's there. If Caleb Lomu was available at 43, I'd probably sprint the card in my opinion. Venga Yawane and Emmanuel Pregnon, I think, are both likely first round picks. Maybe Pregnon doesn't go, but there's so many teams that need guard at the start of the second. I would be shocked if he made it there. Interior defense line, I'm not really looking to draft that in the first 2 rounds to begin with. And if you're keeping Zach Sealer, I'm not looking to draft it in the entire draft because of Kenneth Grant, Jordan Phillips, Zeke Bickers. You did a very good job last year. So I'm not looking there. But I think Caden McDonald, first round pick. Peter Woods, maybe he falls to the second. He wouldn't be available long. Kristen Miller is one of my favorite prospects in the draft. I think he's got a real shot to be a first round pick. Caleb Banks, to me, the floor feels like 41 to the Bengals. Lee Hunter could be there, but I wouldn't even consider drafting Lee Hunter because he's a nose tackle. We have too many of those. So I might as well just throw him and say, hey, he can be drafted, and we're not taking him. So let's add another name that's probably gone. Let's look at the edge rushers. Arvell Reese, Ruben Bain, David Bailey, Keldrick Falk, I think are probably all top 20 picks. I know Keldrick Falk, you might be like, what? He probably is, man. He's super young. He's athletic, 6'6", 275 pounds. He doesn't turn 21 till September. Somebody is going to take a shot on that dude. Akeem Mesidor probably will be added to a team that's trying to win now in the first round because he is such a dominant player. He is older prospect. And TJ Parker, I have seen mocks where he falls past 43. I'm not buying it. TJ Parker was thought to be a top 5 pick entering the year. Yay, had a down year, but then he dominated at the Senior Bowl. So clearly that same player is still in there. I don't think he'd be available at this point. Sonny Styles is the only linebacker I would guarantee off the board. I guess you might think CJ Allen or Jacob Rodriguez are also gone. I don't think it's guaranteed, so I left them both in the draft pool. And then my DBs, Mansour Delane, floor is what, 12? Jermod McCoy will be a first round pick. AJ, no, Avion Terrell. His brother is getting them mixed up. Avion Terrell will be a first round pick. I think Colton Hood will probably be a first round pick, if not a very early second. Brandon Cisse, I think, might not be a first. The Seahawks at 32 feels like a good spot, but like the Saints at 42, the Bengals at 41. Like there's the Browns at 39. There's a lot of teams that could take Cisse, the Raiders. So he's probably not available. Caleb Downs, top 20 pick. Dylan Thieneman might also be a top 20 pick. And Emmanuel McNeil Warren, I kind of mentioned, I think there's a chance he could fall to 43. I'd give it like a 10%. So he's probably off the board. So I went ahead and tossed him in here as well. So yeah, I got a total of 38 players that probably are not available. So, assuming everyone else not named here is available, let's go ahead and get into my must drafts at 43. And same thing as yesterday. We're going to do four must drafts, four good picks, and seven honorable mentions. And here are my must drafts. Starting off with number one, Chris Johnson out of San Diego State. If you know anything about me, you know how much I love Chris Johnson's game. I have a top 25 grade on Chris Johnson as a player. I personally would, if he was there at 30, I would take him at 30. That's the God honest truth. I don't care if other teams have a second round grade. This player is good enough, in my opinion, to where I would sprint the card in at 30 if he's available. And I truly mean that. So if he's here at 43, it becomes that much easier to draft him. You need boundary corner help. You've grabbed a lot of guys on the veteran minimum. You already had Juju Brents who can't stay healthy. Jason Marshall Jr., Storm Duck hasn't been able to stay healthy. Chris Johnson would be by far your best corner on roster. So, assuming you haven't taken a corner at 11 or 30 yet, I would sprint the card in at 43. Zion Young out of Missouri, a guy I'd also be willing to take 30th overall, in my opinion. Zion Young is a dominant pass rusher. He's great against the run. He is the ultimate competitor. The only thing, there might be some character worries. He got a DWI in December. That's really the only thing I've found any trash talks. We'll get into it with people. I like that stuff. You got to have that dog in you to play on the defense line or offense line at the NFL level. So I don't mind a guy that gets after it and might get into a guy's face here and there. I truly do like it. AJ Halsey out LSU. I think AJ Halsey will absolutely be available at 43. The question is, will you take him? Me personally, I would. I have a top 35 grade on AJ Halsey. I believe he's literally my number 35 player in the class. So if he's there at 43, I would feel pretty good about taking him. Like I said, assuming now, granted, you should probably know if I'm willing to take these players. I'm assuming we haven't taken their position yet. You get Caleb Downs at 11 or Emmanuel McNeil at 30. Maybe I'm not taking AJ Halsey. You get TJ Parker or Keldrick Falk at 30. Maybe I'm not taking Zion Young. So, assuming we haven't drafted the positions, this is how I would view my must drafts. And then number four overall, Keith Abney, the second out of Arizona State. If you want to plug and play nickel corner that can play that like Nate Hobbs role you were hoping for last year in Green Bay that didn't work out because of injury, or Keyshawn Nixon's role on the defense, whatever you want to call it, Keith Abney can be an absolute dog for the nickel. As of right now, I don't see a starting nickel corner in Miami. And if you're saying Storm Duck, like, what are we talking about? Like, the Dolphins need a upgrade at the nickel. Keith Abney was arguably the best nickel in the country this past season, so if he's available at 43, I'd absolutely do it. Let's go ahead and talk about my good picks. And like I said, if Jacob Rodriguez is on the board, I get he's older prospect. He's like 24. Same thing with Traden Stukes, so I'll talk about in a second. I would draft him. Like you're having talks, I guess, about potentially trading Jordan Brooks because of his age and not wanting to maybe extend him on a huge contract. Like I said, rumors, not guaranteed. But after trading Jalen Waddle, I definitely wouldn't say it's out of the question. If you did move, even if you didn't move Jordan Brooks, like Jacob Rodriguez would be a great pairing next to Jordan Brooks. Because Tyrell Dodson at the end of the day is just a good blitzing linebacker. I don't think you have a full term, long term starter there with Tyrell Dodson. So the linebacker position, regardless, is upgradable. I think Rodriguez might be pretty similar to Brooks in the role he would play in the defense. So it's kind of a better replacement than pairing. But who's to say Jordan Brooks is a Dolphin? I don't know, by September, what's the opening day? September 9th, whatever it is. Who's to say he's still on the roster? I don't know. Maybe you move him if you get a good enough offer like you did Jalen Waddle. All right, my number two option, trading Stukes out of Arizona. Truly a player. Every time I watch him, I fall more in love with him. No diddy. But man, he is a amazing nickel corner. I think he could be a very effective safety. Hell, I think he could even play on the boundary. He just is a true Swiss Army knife in the secondary. I think Jeff Hafley would love that. And if he's here, I have a top 40 grade on him. I would take him in a heartbeat at 43, assuming. I mean, I'd probably take him. Maybe I should have put him at number one because I'd consider taking him over Jacob Rodriguez because of how bad we need secondary. So Yeah, trading Stooks would be a walk the card in. I'm very happy pick with it. And same thing can be said about Derek Moore. Assuming you haven't taken a pass rusher, like I keep saying, I love Derek Moore's game. Derek Moore is a electric player. He's good against the run. He's a hell of a pass rusher. He looked great at the Senior Bowl. He had 11 sacks this past year. Just a ultimate weapon off the edge to pair with Chop Robinson, Josh Uche, Robert Beal, and all those dudes. Number 4 is Keelan Rutledge, and you'll see Keelan Rutledge name pop up later in this spoiler. I would be willing to take Keelan Rutledge this early. He's a natural right guard. You have no starting right guard on the roster. I personally think he's better than Chase Besantis, Jennings Dunker, and whoever else you want to put in that conversation. Keelan Rutledge is my dude, and for a guy that almost had to get his foot amputated from an accident a year ago, he moved pretty damn well this past season at Georgia Tech. So if you're going to tell me that can just only improve from here with how big and powerful he is, I don't know what we're talking about. That is your plug and play starting right guard, in my opinion, next to Aaron Brewer and Austin Jackson on the right side of your offensive line. Here's some honorable mentions that I left out of pick 43. Chris Bell is absolutely good enough to be taken 43rd. My question is, do you want to bring in the injury risk? And I'm not saying he's like lingering issues, but he tore his ACL in November. So he's not going to be healthy for a while. So it's like, it is a good long term pick. And I think the value at 43 is good because I have a first round grade on Chris Bell. But it's like you kind of need players that can play during training camp and all of that good stuff and play immediately to help out this terrible football team currently. Chris Brazzell, the second out of Tennessee, I think can be like your Christian Watson, big body on the outside, 6'5", absolute vertical threat, field stretcher, a ton of speed in his game. So if you're looking for that this early in the offense, I think Chris Brazzell's a great choice. I would probably wait, but I wouldn't hate it. Maxi Iheanacho out of Arizona State is also a good option if you're looking for a long-term right tackle. Now, granted, I would not start him day one at a guard spot. I don't think that do him any favors. The plan would be, hey, you're going to sit for a year. Austin Jackson, you're going to be out the door next season, and then Max will start in 2027. Then I got three pass rushers, Gabe Akis, Malachi Lawrence, Denied Dennis Sutton. All similar reasons. I mean, Gabe Akis brings the power, if that's what you're looking for off the edge, can also defend the run well. Malachi Lawrence needs to improve as a run defender, but a ton of athleticism in his game. He's freakishly long, 6'4", 255. Like, he is the ultimate, like, build your edge rusher up, but you can how should I word this? You can't teach physicals, is what I'm trying to say. So if you can keep developing this guy based on how physically gifted he is, you're going to get a superstar. Like I said, if you can develop him, and we've seen the Packers staff take shots on players like that. So it wouldn't surprise me if John Eric Sullivan and Jeff Hafley also do. Denied Dennis Sutton is like the reverse of that, 6'5", 265. Good run defender, solid pass rusher. He can start day one for you, and he'll just be solid as a rock. And then D'Angelo Pon's also tossed in here for the same reason as Keith Abney. You have no nickel corner. So if you're fine with the size concerns being 5'8", 180 pounds, then yeah, go ahead and take D'Angelo Ponce. He was one of the best corners in the nation, but he is just going to be a nickel at the NFL level. Okay, that's going to wrap up the second round. Let's go ahead and talk about pick 75. But before we do that, we got to talk about who is likely off the board. And I'll just mention the guys that have been added at this point. Jadarian Price, Notre Dame running back that isn't Jeremiah Love, the other one, who is also very good in my RB2 in this class, will not be available at 75. But like I said, nor would I take him. Wide receiver wise, I added, Chris Bell to this list. Somebody will take a shot on Chris Bell in the second round, in my opinion. Zachariah Branch will not be available. He is just too fast and such a weapon after the catch. Someone will take him. Chris Brazzell, I think, will be gone. Jeremy Bernard, I believe, would also be gone at the wide receiver position. Tight end, I added two names. Eli Stowers, vertical threat tight end, can play out the slot. Great receiving tight end. Someone will take him. Max Clare, I think, is just one of the most solid prospects in the draft. Very well-rounded tight end. I don't think he'd be available at 75 either. Adding to the tackle position, I added Maxi Iheanacho and Caleb Tiernan. I don't see either one of them making it here. At the guard position, Chase Besantis will for sure be off the board at this point. Jennings Dunker as well. And then at center, I think someone would take Connor Lew, considering he was thought to be a first-round pick before he, tore his ACL halfway through the college football season. So he will also be gone, but we don't need a center. At D tackle, I added Grayson Halton and Dominique Orange, the big citrus. I think some team will take both those guys. The big citrus is a true nose tackle. Teams need nose tackles. He'll be gone. And Grayson Halton, I think, is one of the best pass rushers off the interior in the whole entire draft class. If Grayson Halton was there at 75, I'd have a hard time passing just because of Zach Sealer's age being, what, 30, 31 years old. And you could potentially look to trade him this offseason after June 1st. So, yeah, if Grayson Halton's there, I'm perfectly fine with the pick. Edge rusher, who did I add? Zion Young for sure gone. Derek Moore's going to be gone. Gabe Akis, I guess, could be available, but I don't think he should be. Malachi Lawrence will be gone, and Cassius Howe as a DPR, someone will take by then. Linebacker added a ton. Jacob Rodriguez and CJ Allen, I think, are for sure going by this point. Jake Golday, athletic roamer around the field, can make a ton of plays, grab you a bunch of tackles. Just a very dynamic player will be gone. And I think Anthony Hill Jr., some people have tried to make it seem like he might fall very far in the draft. I'm not really buying that. His 2024 tape is really good. He's somewhat of a stiff athlete, sometimes delayed reactions, but he's so good around the line of scrimmage. He's the perfect build of linebacker, 6'3, 240. He's only 21 years old. He's a pretty good athlete. I don't think that guy makes it there at 75. Adding to the corner, Chris Johnson's gone by now. Keith Abney and D'Angelo Bonds, all three guys I've talked about, are probably gone. Safety, I think AJ Halsey's gone. Traden Stukes is like a hybrid nickel safety. And Keontae Scott, who I haven't mentioned yet, but a very good football player as well out of the U. Nickel safety hybrid like Traden Stukes is probably gone. I don't know if the Dolphins would consider taking Keontae Scott to begin with because he'll probably, I'm pretty sure he turns 25 before the start of the NFL season or later this year. So I don't know if he'll fit their window necessarily, but he is a very good player. So that leaves us with 67 players off the board. No, I did not do that on purpose, but I think there's a good chance these 67 guys are not available. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into my must drafts. And a couple guys I've already talked about briefly. Keelan Rutledge, I think there's a real shot he could fall because of that. Maybe teams have questions about that foot injury. And like I said, it sounds like the NFL might be higher on people like Basantis and Dunker. So maybe they go before Keelan Rutledge, and this leads him to falling. If he was here at 75, I would 100% sprint guard in. Possibly even if you've already taken like a Spencer Fano, France Maui Noah, or Maxine Achor, I would still sprint the card in on Keelan Rutledge regardless. He is that damn good of a football player. I have a top 50 grade on him. If he's here at 75, you take him. The same thing can be said about Deni Dennis Sutton out of Penn State. Like I said, true three down player, can defend the run well, add some size to your edge room. Pretty good athlete as well. I believe he had what, a 38-inch vertical or something. He's a very good athlete. Excuse me. So yeah, if he's here at 75, I think you 100% take him. Kyle Lewis out of Pittsburgh is a very dynamic player. There's a real chance he's gone by this point. But if he was here, I think once again you run the card in. I mean, he is a great coverage linebacker. He's very versatile, can play safety and in the nickel. Some teams might view him as a nickel to begin with because he's 6 foot, 220 pounds. But adding a player of that caliber to the defense, that would be very intriguing if I was Jeff Hafley. Then Ted Hurst out of Georgia State. Some people might think Ted Hurst at 75 is high. I'm personally not one of them. I love Ted Hurst's game. He has a ton of speed. He's dynamic. He can high point the ball. His one concern is he had around a 10% drop rate. I think most of that was focus drops, and you can fix that. You really can. So 6'4, 207 pounds added to the boundary with a lot of speed. Once again, that's like your Christian Watson role on the new Dolphins offense. So, not having a guy like that, I'd be very intrigued by Ted Hurst at the 75th pick. Let's talk about some good picks at pick 75. Davis Igbinosun out of Ohio State. Assuming you haven't got a corner at this point, I would love Iggy here at 75. He's a true boundary corner, good athlete, 6'2, 205 pounds. If you can get that guy in the boundary room to compete for a starting spot, which I think he would win a starting spot, in my opinion, I think that's a good move. Jalen Kilgore out of South Carolina, I'm a big fan of. Another guy like Traden Stukes, Keontae Scott, that is a nickel slash safety hybrid. I don't care if I think he's more likely than the other two to be a full time safety because he's 6'1, 210 pounds. And probably the best part about Jalen Kilgore is he's only 21. So he's super young. He's already pretty good. So yeah, if he's available at 75, another guy I'd struggle to pass on here. Josiah Trotter out of Missouri, once again, a young guy, 21 years old, son of great linebacker Jeremiah Trotter Sr. His brother is probably going to be a starter for the Eagles soon, Jeremiah Trotter Jr., if you could have guessed that. So yeah, if Josiah Trotter was here, I'd feel once again pretty good considering you don't know what's happening long term with Jordan Brooks, and Tyrell Dodson's just not the best starter of all time to begin with. Elijah Surratt out of Indiana isn't like the previous receivers I've talked about. He doesn't have a lot of speed in his game. He's not a great route runner, but he doesn't drop the football, and he's very good at what he does, and that's being a physical down the field receiver that goes up and gets the ball, which Miami's really doesn't have outside, I guess, like Jalen Tolbert would be the one best at it. And I wouldn't feel great about that. So if Surratt is here at 75, I think that would also be a pretty good addition to the wide receiver room. And yeah, let's go ahead and end off part one of my day two targets for the Dolphins with honorable mentions. Malachi Fields, everything I just said about Elijah Surratt, you can apply to Fields as well. Fields is a even less athlete. He's ran like a 4.61 or something at the combine, which he's 6'4", 220. So it really doesn't turn me off too much. Chris McClellan out of Mizzou. Once again, if Zach Sealer would move, was to be moved post June 1st, and you knew you were going to do that by the NFL draft, Chris McClellan would be a great pass rusher to add to the interior of the defensive line to replace Sealer. LT Overton out of Alabama. I mean, LT after the 2024 season could have declared last year for the draft, and he probably would have went in the first round. So the upside is certainly there. And I wouldn't even say it's really LT's fault he had a down year. I just think Alabama had no idea how to use him this previous season because he is kind of like a Keldrick Falk, can play inside and out. Alabama just couldn't figure it out. The next two, I don't have a ton of interest in drafting, but at pick 75, they are very good players. Joshua Josephs and R. Mason Thomas, they're just DPRs, in my opinion. Neither of them can defend the run well, and that's the whole problem with the edge room currently. You got Josh Uche and Chop Robinson to do that, so two guys I really wouldn't understand why you took them based on the current layout of the roster. They are good players nonetheless for pick 75. Aiden Fisher out of Indiana, like I've been saying about the linebackers, he is a leader. He led one of the best defenses in college football, the national champions, Indiana Hoosiers. So if that's your, I mean, he could even upgrade Tyrell Dotson next to Brooks, but he plays a role similar to Brooks. So that's why I mentioned a replacement potentially. And Zakee Wheatley out of Penn State, I think is a great player. I think there's a real shot he's gone by now. He definitely could have been in the good picks slash must drafts. He is a very good player. Honestly, after I made the two slides, I was like, oh shit, Zakee Wheatley's also here. So he's definitely someone by far to me, the best player on this slide and possibly better than a couple players on the previous slides. But yeah, man, that is going to be it. I will be back tomorrow with picks 87, 90, and 94. So I hope y'all tune into that, and I hope y'all enjoyed this video. And until next time, my friends, peace out.